The clock tower loomed over the sleeping town as midnight approached, its hands trembling like a warning from forgotten ages. Ethan said, "This feels wrong, like something is waiting in the dark." The chilling wind whispered through the alley, carrying faint echoes of a distant cry that didn't belong to the night. A cracked phone on the ground played a cryptic voicemail, a trembling voice whispering, "They know where you are," before static swallowed the sound. Ethan's heart raced as he scanned the shadows, but the street was deserted, too still, too silent. A piercing scream cut through the silence, echoing from nowhere, leaving only an object on the cobblestones. A silver pendant etched with unreadable symbols. Ethan said, "What is this? It wasn't here before." The moonlight flickered, clouds dragging across its face, as though the sky itself feared what had been unleashed. Somewhere beyond sight, gears groaned, and the town's ancient curse stirred awake. Ethan gripped the pendant tighter, feeling its chill bite into his skin as thunder rumbled far off. He whispered, "This shouldn't be here, not tonight." The clock tower's faint groan echoed through empty streets, sounding almost alive. The distant scream's aftershock lingered, making every shadow seem to breathe. A gust of wind slammed a nearby gate, and Ethan flinched, scanning the darkness for movement. The night felt wrong, like the air itself was watching. He stepped cautiously toward the alley, shoes scraping the cobblestones, his heart beat loud in his ears. Somewhere, a dog barked once, and then went silent. Ethan said, "Someone's playing games, or worse." Above him the clouds churned, swallowing the moon, and the world dimmed to a sinister gloom. The pendant pulsed faintly, as if answering some hidden call. Ethan's breath caught. He wasn't alone. Ethan's steps slowed as the alley stretched before him, narrow and suffocating. The faint pulse of the pendant glowed against his palm like a heartbeat, not his own. He said, "What are you trying to tell me?" The alley smelled of damp stone and rust, every brick steeped in age. A trash can clattered deeper inside, though no one was there. He froze, listening to the whisper of distant gears grinding. The air thickened, pressing down like invisible hands. Somewhere beyond the alley's end, a faint light flickered, fragile and unsteady. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat dry as dust. The pendant grew colder, biting his fingers. He muttered, "I shouldn't be here." A shape darted at the corner of his eye, gone before he could focus. The clock tower chimed once, a single hollow note that seemed to linger unnaturally long. The faint flicker of light at the alley's end resolved into a cracked wooden door, its paint peeling like dead skin. Ethan approached, every step heavier than the last. A rusty hinge creaked in the wind, sounding eerily like a sigh. He said, "If this is a prank, it's sick." The pendant's glow dimmed suddenly, as though hiding itself. The door trembled, though no hand touched it. A cold draft swept past him, smelling of earth and old paper. Somewhere behind him, a faint footstep echoed, too soft to be certain. He turned sharply, but the alley was empty, shadows swallowing every corner. The clock tower groaned again, more urgently now. Ethan's breath came shallow, visible in the frigid air. He tightened his grip on the pendant and whispered, "What's behind that door?" The door creaked open by itself, revealing a dusty storage room, lit only by the moon filtering through a shattered window. Ethan stepped inside cautiously, the floorboards groaning beneath his weight. He whispered, "This place, it's older than the town itself." Dust motes danced in the pale light, disturbed by his breath. Shelves lined the walls, filled with forgotten relics and yellowed papers. On a table lay a faded map with strange markings, edges charred. The pendant pulsed faintly, casting an eerie glow on the map. A whisper curled around the room, so soft it felt imagined. Ethan spun around, but there was only silence. The clock tower chimed again, louder, more urgent. The air seemed to tighten, the shadows deepening. Ethan said, "Something woke up tonight, and it's watching." Ethan entered the dusty room deeper, the pendant's pulse quickening like a heartbeat. The shelves whispered with forgotten histories. A faint knock echoed behind him, and he spun. Who's there? The door was shut tight. The clock tower groaned, its sound creeping through the cracks like a warning. Dust swirled around him in spirals as if drawn to unseen energy. A sudden chill wrapped him, sharp and unnatural. The pendant glowed brighter, casting dancing light over an ancient map pinned to the wall. Ethan said, "This map, it's leading somewhere." His fingers traced faded lines, revealing a hidden path marked with the same symbols. A floorboard creaked on its own. The air felt heavy, pressing down on his shoulders. Somewhere distant, thunder rolled ominously, urging him forward into deeper shadows. Ethan pushed through a narrow corridor that led to the Old Town archives, the air damp and cold. His breath formed small clouds as he stepped onto cracked tiles. The pendant's glow guided him like a fragile lantern. A shadow flitted across the corridor ahead, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Ethan whispered, "Someone's here." His voice trembled in the hollow space. The clock tower's gears groaned again, closer this time. He reached a heavy oak door and pushed it open, revealing rows of dusty shelves filled with ancient tomes. The scent of mold and aged paper filled the air. On a central table lay a single leather-bound book, pristine among the decay. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the walls. Ethan said, "This is no coincidence." His hand hovered over the book, hesitant yet compelled. The silence felt alive. The leather-bound book opened with a reluctant creak, its pages brittle yet glowing faintly under the pendant's light. Ethan traced a finger over unfamiliar runes, the symbols matching those on the pendant. A sudden whisper brushed his ear, though the room was empty. He froze, heart pounding. The clock tower chimed a half note, warped and discordant. The candle on the table flickered violently, though no wind touched it. Ethan said, This was hidden for a reason." The pages shifted on their own, stopping at a drawing of the clock tower wrapped in chains of light. A faint outline of a person stood beside it, face obscured. Dust drifted lazily in the eerie glow, and somewhere distant, a door slammed shut. The map on the wall trembled slightly, as if alive, as Ethan's breath came shallow and uneven. The candlelight dimmed abruptly, plunging the archive into near darkness. Ethan's breath quickened as a faint shuffle echoed between the shelves. He whispered, "Show yourself." A shadow slipped past the edge of his vision, too quick to follow. The pendant's glow flared, illuminating an inscription on the wall that hadn't been visible before. The words pulsed faintly, alive with ancient power. A gust of icy wind swept through the room, though the windows were closed tight. The clock tower groaned again, its gears grinding like distant thunder. Ethan stepped toward the wall, fingers trembling as he traced the glowing symbols. The shelves creaked, and a faint laugh, soft and broken, echoed through the silence. He said, "This place remembers everything." Dust swirled around him, and somewhere deep within the archives, a door clicked shut on its own. Ethan turned sharply toward the sound of the closing door, the pendant swinging like a pendulum. The air pressed heavy around him, almost suffocating. He stepped cautiously, his shoes echoing too loudly on the cracked tiles. A faint whisper of gears turning seemed to follow his every move. The leather-bound book remained open behind him, its pages fluttering without wind. Ethan said, "It's leading me somewhere. But why?" A narrow staircase spiraled downward at the far corner of the archives, hidden behind a collapsed shelf. Dust drifted like ghostly shapes as he approached the stairwell. Thunder rolled outside, shaking the old building's foundations. The pendant pulsed again, urgent now. Ethan hesitated, then placed his foot on the first step. The clock tower chimed once, low and ominous, sealing the moment with dread. Ethan descended the hidden staircase, the air growing colder with every step. The walls dripped with moisture, their stones ancient and cracked. The pendant's glow flickered, casting ghostly shadows on the rough surface. The sound of distant gears grinding echoed faintly, as though the clock tower's heart beat underground. Ethan said, "This tunnel, it's been here forever." Water dripped rhythmically, like a slow countdown. He felt the weight of history pressing down, a sense of trespassing on something sacred. The stairs ended at a heavy iron door, etched with the same runes from the map. He hesitated, breath visible in the chill. A faint voice whispered beyond the door, too soft to understand. Thunder rumbled overhead, muffled through layers of stone. Ethan tightened his grip on the pendant and stepped closer, resolve forming in his eyes. The iron door creaked open to reveal a vast underground chamber lined with forgotten statues. Ethan stepped inside, breath catching as cold air wrapped around him. The chamber's ceiling arched impossibly high, carved with spirals of symbols. The pendant pulsed brighter, casting eerie reflections on the statues' cracked faces. One statue's eyes seemed to glint in the faint light. Ethan said, "This place, it's alive." His footsteps echoed like distant whispers. A faint tremor passed through the floor, stirring dust into swirling clouds. The clock tower groaned above, its voice distant but commanding. Ethan approached a central altar carved from black stone, its surface etched with familiar markings. The pendant in his hand vibrated softly, urging him closer. Thunder rumbled far above, but the sound felt trapped within the earth. Ethan approached the altar, the pendant's vibration intensifying. Strange energy hummed through the air, raising goosebumps on his skin. He set the pendant on the altar, and the markings began to glow faintly. A gust of icy wind swept the chamber, extinguishing unseen flames. A whisper, low and ancient, slithered through the air. "You've set it free." Ethan froze, his heart beat loud in the silence. The statues seemed to shift, their cracked faces almost alive in the flickering light. He said, "No, what did I just do?" The clock tower above groaned louder, echoing through the stone. Dust rained from the ceiling as the ground trembled. The pendant flared one last time before dimming completely. Ethan stepped back, dread sinking deep, as the darkness seemed to breathe around him. The tremor grew stronger, shaking dust from the statue's shoulders. Ethan stumbled backward as a jagged crack split the altar's surface, light seeping from within like liquid lightning. The statue's shadows twisted unnaturally, stretching toward him. A whispering chorus rose, words indecipherable yet heavy with menace. The clock tower groaned again, its sound vibrating through the earth. Ethan said, "This isn't possible." The chamber's air turned frigid, frosting the edges of the altar. One statue's arm broke free, falling with a deafening crash that echoed like thunder. The whispering chorus fell silent all at once, leaving a ringing emptiness. Ethan's breath came in shallow bursts as he stepped back, his foot landing on loose stone. The pendant, now dark, lay cold on the fractured altar, a silent omen of the curse now stirring. The chamber quieted, but the silence felt alive, pressing against Ethan's ears. A faint glow flickered along the walls, revealing an archway that hadn't been there before. The runes around the arch pulsed faintly, beckoning him closer. Thunder rumbled distantly, muffled by layers of stone. Ethan whispered, "The map. It wanted me here." His footsteps echoed as he approached, every sound unnaturally loud. The statues seemed to watch, their cracked eyes glinting with reflected light. A cold draft swept through the chamber, carrying a faint metallic tang. The archway shimmered briefly, as though reality itself wavered. Ethan hesitated, hand hovering in the air, then stepped forward. The clock tower groaned again, deeper and more urgent, its voice echoing through the tunnels like a warning. Shadows gathered behind him, restless and watchful. Ethan stepped through the shimmering archway, the world bending around him like a warped mirror. The tunnel beyond was lined with carved faces, their stone eyes following his every move. The air grew heavier, each breath sharp with metallic cold. The pendant was dark now, its silence unsettling. A faint echo of gears grinding seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Thunder boomed above, muffled by layers of earth. Ethan whispered, "This feels wrong, like a trap waiting to close." The faces on the walls seemed to shift slightly when he wasn't looking. Shadows deepened unnaturally, curling toward him as he walked. His footsteps echoed like distant screams. A sudden gust swept past, and the archway behind him vanished, leaving only solid rock. Ethan's heart pounded as he realized there was no turning back. The tunnel opened into a cavernous hall, where a single torch flickered on a stone pedestal. Ethan approached cautiously, every step echoing in the cavern's vast emptiness. The carved walls were covered in unfamiliar runes, pulsing faintly. A distant whispering chorus seemed to rise from the stones themselves. "Ah," he said, "this is older than anything in the town." The torchlight wavered violently as though sensing his presence. A loose pebble rolled across the floor, though nothing had touched it. Thunder rumbled overhead, impossibly deep underground. The clock tower groaned faintly, its echo traveling through the stone like a heartbeat. Ethan felt the weight of unseen eyes on him. The silence between whispers grew unbearable, pressing against his ears like invisible hands. He reached out slowly toward the flickering torch, his fingers trembling with uncertainty. As Ethan touched the torch, a hidden mechanism clicked, and the floor beneath him trembled. A section of the wall slid open, revealing a passage drenched in faint blue light. The whispering chorus ceased abruptly, replaced by a single voice, calm yet chilling. "You've awakened what should have stayed buried." Ethan's breath caught as a shadow moved within the new passage. The pendant in his pocket pulsed faintly again, as if sensing danger. He said, "Who's there?" But only silence answered. Dust rained from the ceiling, stirred by an unseen force. The torchlight behind him flickered and died, plunging the cavern into darkness except for the glow of the passage. The carved faces on the walls seemed to grin in the dim light. Ethan tightened his jaw, stepping toward the unknown. Ethan stepped into the glowing passage, the air unnaturally still. The walls shimmered like water, distorting his reflection as he moved. A faint hum vibrated beneath the stone, like the town's heartbeat buried deep below. A flicker of movement ahead revealed a tall figure cloaked in shadows, standing perfectly still. The figure's voice echoed softly, "You should not have come." Ethan's chest tightened as he took a cautious step forward. The pendant throbbed faintly in his pocket, warning him. The figure turned slightly, its face hidden by the hood. The clock tower groaned above, a low moan seeping through the earth. The floor beneath Ethan's feet shifted slightly, sending a trickle of dust cascading down the walls. He said, "Who are you?" But only the faint hum answered as the figure melted into the shadows. The passage narrowed, leading Ethan to a circular chamber where runes spiraled across the floor. A faint, sickly green light pulsed from cracks in the stone. The air reeked of damp earth and something older, bitter and metallic. The whispering chorus returned, now urgent and overlapping. Ethan said, "This is where it began." The ground shuddered as the runes glowed brighter, forming a pattern around him. The pendant vibrated violently, leaping from his pocket onto the stone floor. The clock tower above let out a long, strained groan that echoed through the tunnels like a warning bell. Dust cascaded from the ceiling as a distant door slammed shut. Ethan bent to pick up the pendant, but the runes flared blindingly bright. The chamber filled with a low rumble, and the shadows stretched toward him like reaching hands. Ethan climbed a spiraling stone staircase, its steps slick with damp moss. The tunnel behind him sealed silently, leaving no path back. His breath fogged in the frigid air, and every echo sounded like a following step. The pendant's faint blue glow pulsed weakly, flickering with each beat of his heart. Thunder groaned above, distant yet heavy. A gust of air carried a whisper, too faint to understand, through the cracks in the stone. Ethan muttered, "It's guiding me somewhere." The walls narrowed as he ascended, pressing inward as though alive. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, and the sound of grinding gears echoed faintly. He reached a small landing, where an iron door stood slightly ajar, a thin green light spilling from its edge. The weight of unseen eyes pressed against his back as he stepped forward. The iron door creaked as Ethan pushed it open, revealing a small chamber lit by an otherworldly green glow. Ancient murals covered the walls, depicting the clock tower wrapped in chains of light. A single statue stood in the center, its face cracked but lifelike. The pendant vibrated violently in his hand, pulling him toward the statue. He whispered, "This is the source." The whispering chorus returned, louder and more urgent, circling him like unseen winds. Thunder rolled above, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. A faint, cold draft curled around his ankles. The statue's cracked mouth seemed to move, though no sound emerged. Ethan's pulse quickened as the runes on the floor lit up, forming an intricate pattern beneath his feet. He tightened his grip on the pendant, dread clawing at his chest. The pendant leapt from Ethan's grasp, slamming onto the glowing runes. The chamber trembled, and the statue's eyes flared bright green. A deep, resonant voice filled the air. "The chains are broken." Ethan staggered backward as the murals seemed to ripple like water. The floor cracked, releasing tendrils of cold mist. Shadows crawled across the walls, forming distorted shapes. The whispering chorus escalated into a deafening wail, then abruptly cut off. Thunder rumbled like an approaching storm. Ethan said, "No, this can't be undone." The statue's arm twitched, scattering stone dust across the floor. The clock tower above groaned louder than ever, its echo shaking the chamber. The pendant pulsed once, then dimmed completely, leaving only the eerie glow of the runes beneath Ethan's feet. The chamber quaked violently as pieces of the ceiling crumbled, crashing onto the cracked floor. Ethan shielded his head, dust clouding the air. The statue's mouth split wider, releasing a cold, echoing laugh that reverberated through the walls. The murals twisted, reshaping into scenes of chaos and fire. The runes beneath Ethan's feet pulsed faster, forming a spiraling pattern of light. A sudden gust of icy wind whipped through the chamber, extinguishing the faint green glow for a heartbeat before it returned, brighter. Ethan said, "This curse was waiting for me." The whispering chorus returned, now chanting a single phrase in an ancient tongue. The clock tower's groan became a wailing roar, shaking the earth. Ethan staggered backward, gripping the wall for support as shadows stretched toward him like claws. The spiraling light expanded outward, consuming the edges of the chamber. Ethan stumbled toward the only exit, but the doorway sealed itself with a grinding of stone. The pendant pulsed faintly on the floor, its light weak but persistent. A faint figure appeared within the swirling glow, tall and cloaked, its voice calm yet chilling. "The curse is free." Ethan's chest tightened as the clock tower's roar shook dust from the ceiling. The runes flared once more, casting sharp shadows across the walls. He whispered, "There has to be a way to stop this." The green light surged, and the statue's cracked arm reached toward him, fingers outstretched. Thunder rumbled distantly, echoing through the tunnels like an ominous heartbeat. Ethan stood frozen, caught between fight and flight as the chamber pulsed with otherworldly power. Ethan stumbled through a jagged tunnel, the roar of the clock tower above shaking loose stones around him. The air reeked of dust and cold metal. Ahead, faint torchlight flickered against cracked stone. The pendant's glow was gone, leaving him in half-light. Shadows bent unnaturally on the walls, stretching long fingers. A low hum vibrated beneath his feet, like a living heartbeat. Thunder rolled overhead, distant yet oppressive. Ethan whispered, "It's close. I can feel it." The tunnel opened into a wide cavern, its ceiling disappearing into darkness. A stone bridge arched over a chasm, the faint sound of rushing water echoing below. The hum grew louder, rattling the bridge. Dust spiraled in the icy air as Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding like the gears of the ancient curse. As Ethan stepped onto the bridge, stones shifted beneath his weight, groaning like old bones. The distant roar of water grew louder, echoing in the cavern. A faint shape appeared at the far end, a cloaked figure standing perfectly still. The figure's voice floated across the chasm, calm but menacing. The curse was never meant to sleep forever. Ethan froze, his breath fogging in the cold. The hum beneath his feet intensified, rattling the bridge. Shadows curled upward like smoke. Thunder cracked far above, shaking loose pebbles from the ceiling. Ethan said, "You've been waiting for this moment." The figure's outline shimmered briefly before fading into the darkness. The bridge trembled, a warning whispered through stone and air. Ethan tightened his jaw, determination hardening in his gaze. The bridge trembled violently as Ethan sprinted forward, stones cracking under his feet. The cloaked figure vanished, leaving only swirling mist. A chunk of the bridge collapsed into the chasm with a deafening crash. Ethan leapt over a widening gap, landing hard but steady. His heartbeat thundered louder than the distant roar of water. A faint glow appeared on the far wall, forming the runes he had seen on the map. He said, "This has to end tonight." Thunder groaned again, echoing through the cavern like a warning bell. The hum grew deafening, vibrating through his bones. The bridge shifted dangerously, dust raining from above. Ethan pushed forward, gripping the cracked stone railing as shadows writhed along the walls, reaching for him like living things. Ethan reached the cavern's far side, the runes glowing brighter with each step. The hum became a roar, shaking loose fragments from the walls. A narrow stone ledge stretched ahead, leading toward a massive gear chamber carved into the rock. The cloaked figure appeared again on the ledge, his hood slipping just enough for Ethan to glimpse a cracked, stone-like face. The figure's voice carried over the roar. "You were never meant to find this place," Ethan shouted. "You've been guiding me all along." The figure's laughter was low and hollow, swallowed by the cavern. The ledge groaned underfoot as dust rained from the ceiling. Thunder rumbled far above, echoing through the earth. Ethan steadied himself against the wall, determination in his eyes as the ancient mechanism loomed ahead, pulsing with green light. The ledge beneath Ethan's feet cracked with a sharp report, stones tumbling into the darkness below. The cloaked figure melted into mist, his hollow voice echoing, "Midnight comes for all." The hum grew deafening as the cavern shook violently. Ethan lunged for a hanging chain connected to the ancient gears just as the ledge collapsed. He swung out over the abyss, debris crashing into unseen depths. Sparks flared from grinding gears, lighting the cavern with blinding flashes. His hands burned against the icy metal, but he held tight, teeth clenched. Thunder boomed overhead, echoing through the stone like a drum beat. Pulling himself onto a narrow platform, Ethan retrieved the pendant, its faint glow returning. His chest heaved as he whispered, "This ends tonight," and the clock tower's groan rolled through the earth like a warning. Ethan hauled himself out of the shattered tunnels into the abandoned town square as dawn bled across the horizon. The broken clock tower loomed, its gears grinding faintly like a wounded beast. Dust drifted through the pale orange light, settling on cracked cobblestones. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, broken only by the distant cry of a lone crow. Ethan's chest rose and fell, his jacket torn, hands raw. He stared at the flickering pendant in his palm, its weak glow pulsing irregularly. A whisper carried on the wind, faint, familiar and chilling, threading through the ruins. Ethan said, "It isn't over. It never was." The air grew colder as a shadow stretched unnaturally across the square. The clock tower's groan, echoing like a warning through the dead streets. A faint scrape of stone drew Ethan's gaze upward. Perched on a nearby rooftop, the cloaked figure emerged from the mist, his cracked, stone-like face catching the rising sun. The figure's voice rolled like thunder. "The curse was never broken. You merely set it free." Ethan gritted his teeth, anger and dread warring in his chest. The whispering chorus swelled briefly, then died, leaving the streets unnervingly still. The clock tower's shadow stretched long across the square, darkening the space between them. Ethan said, "You've been here all along, watching." The cloaked figure's form flickered like a mirage, its edges bleeding into the dawn light. A gust of wind rattled broken shutters, carrying the faint scent of rust and ash. Ethan bolted for the clock tower, its battered doors hanging crooked on rusted hinges. Inside, the stairwell spiraled upward, gears grinding overhead like restless giants. Each step groaned beneath his weight as thunder rolled outside. The pendant pulsed weakly, casting flickers on the damp stone walls. Wind howled through broken windows, carrying the figure's distant laughter. Ethan whispered, "This ends now," forcing his legs to climb faster. As he reached the upper chamber, sparks showered from a jammed gear, and shards of glass littered the floor. The clock's hands trembled toward midnight. Ethan's breath fogged in the frigid air as he approached the tower's heart, clutching the pendant like a final lifeline. Ethan burst into the tower's top chamber, wind tearing through shattered windows. The massive gears spun dangerously, sparks leaping into the dim light. The cloaked figure waited near the central mechanism, his cracked stone-like face revealed fully. His voice cut through the roar, "Spare yourself, and let the town fall, or bind the curse with your own life." Ethan's heartbeat thundered as the clock's hands trembled closer to midnight. Broken glass crunched beneath his boots as he stepped forward, pendant clutched tight. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the figure's grim smile. Ethan said, "No more deals. This ends with me." The air vibrated with power, dust swirling like a storm. The tower groaned deeply, a warning of the choice about to be made. As the clock struck midnight, Ethan thrust the pendant into the grinding gears. A brilliant flash of green-blue light exploded outward, rattling the tower to its foundations. The cloaked figure screamed, his form fracturing like brittle stone before vanishing into mist. The gears jammed, halting with a final groan. Outside, the storm ceased abruptly, leaving an eerie, breathless silence over the ruined town. Ethan collapsed to his knees, chest heaving, staring at the now dark pendant lodged in the gears. Dawn light crept through broken windows, painting the chamber in muted gold. Far below, the town square lay still, until a faint glimmer pulsed once on the cobblestones, hinting the curse was not gone. Ethan whispered, "It's not over," as the tower groaned softly once more.